Chapter 53. Lin Muyu was silent for a while. He had never thought that Zhen Fong would have such a background, nor did he think that he would unintentionally attract such a terrifying opponent. Zhang Wei patted his shoulder. "Be careful, brother. If you're not careful, you might lose your life." As he spoke, he chuckled and said, "However, I see that Lord Lei Hong seems to appreciate your ability. Perhaps this is your chance to exchange pointers with Lord Lei Hong. This will be of great benefit to you." "Many thanks." In the blink of an eye, the morning passed. Although Zhang Wei's attacks were well controlled, Lin Muyu was still covered in injuries. Of course, his demonic sound fist's close combat techniques were getting stronger and stronger, and Zhang Wei's face had a few more bruises. In the afternoon, he acted as a sparring partner for a Silver Star instructor. By nighttime, he felt as if every inch of his skin was about to shatter. After dinner, he sat in his room and used a towel to wipe the bruises and wounds on his body. He gritted his teeth and endured the pain. His whole body trembled as if he was an injured little beast licking its wounds alone. At this moment, with a creak, the door opened by itself. Lei Hong, dressed in a white robe, stood outside. "Great Deacon, you've come?" Lin Muyu seemed to have expected that he would come, so he wasn't too surprised. Lei Hong had a kind expression on his face, and the wrinkles on his face looked somewhat cute under the moonlight. He smiled and said, "You're Lin Muyu, right?" He was shocked and instantly felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. "Don't worry. If you really are Chu-Chu's student Lin Muyu, then things will be easy." Lei Hong had a smile on his face. "Child, do you trust me, Lei Hong?" "I do." "That's good. Come with me. Chu-Chu is too lazy. He only taught half of a student. Sigh, after so many years, his nature has always been like this." Lei Hong straightened his white robe and turned to leave. Lin Muyu hurriedly put on his clothes and followed him out with the burning prairie sword. The starlight fell on the courtyard of the temple, the stone-paved path reflected the mottled shadows of the trees. Lei Hong rushed the entire way, forcing Lin Muyu to use falling star steps to keep up. His figure was like a ghost. Lei Hong Yihai could sense that Lin Muyu was still following closely. He could not help but feel gratified. This brat was truly a talent. A few minutes later, they stopped at an old mansion in the backyard of the sanctum. Raham slowly pointed at a pond in front of him and said, "Come here to cultivate every day from now on." "Well, this is..." Lin Muyu walked forward and reached out to scoop up the water in the pond, only to find that it was not water at all. It was clearly a pile of gravel. "Great Deacon, what's the use of these stones?" "Don't call me Grand Deacon anymore. Call me Grandpa Lei Hong." Lei Hong smiled kindly and said, "I'm about the same age as Chu-Chu, so it's not too much to accept you calling me grandfather, right?" "It's not too much, Grandpa Lei Hong." Haha. This term Grandpa made Lei Hong feel very comfortable. He twirled his beard and said, "These stones are all strange stones picked from the depths of the mountains. As the saying goes, heaven and earth's spiritual energy, sunlight and rain, after tens of thousands of years, whether it is sunlight or dew, they are all immersed in these unremarkable stones. Everyone thinks that ginseng and dragon tendons are treasures, but to cultivators, these stones are even more precious." Lin Muyu nodded her head as if she understood. Lei Hong continued, "Do you know why you were injured so many times today?" "Why?" This was what Lin Muyu wanted to ask. "Because my skin is not thick enough." Lei Hong mysteriously smiled. Lin Muyu was confused. "Grandpa Lei Hong, are you saying that I have to rub against the tree bark every day like a bear, get my body covered in resin, and then condense it into a protective layer?" "Ha." Lei Hong laughed loudly. "Although my understanding is a bit off, the meaning is almost the same. What you need to do now is to rub against your skin with these stones every day, and your skin will naturally absorb the spiritual energy in the stones. Many strong cultivators with copper skin and iron bones rely on this simple method to cultivate." "So that's how it is." Lin Muyu was a bit speechless. Lei Hong stroked his beard and continued, "This process is called skin refining in the cultivation world. Although you have passed the human realm, you haven't built a good foundation, so you hurriedly refined your skin like those ordinary people. It is not too much to do it again." "Yes, thank you, Grandpa. All right, I'm going back to sleep. You cultivate well." "Yes." Lei Hong quietly left, leaving Lin Muyu alone to face a stone mountain and a pile of stones. He jumped into the pile of stones and his arm was quickly cut by the sharp stones. bleeding profusely. He couldn't help but wonder if this kind of cultivation method would really work. However, at this moment his mind suddenly lit up and a beautiful elf flew out of his eye. It was the female elf official Lulu. "Brother." Lulu flapped her wings and flew around Lin Muyu excitedly and said with a smile, "I heard your conversation just now. Actually, brother doesn't need to use such a clumsy method. Did brother forget that you are a refining grandmaster? The refining cauldron can refine the spiritual energy in these stones, and then refine your skin again." Lin Muyu suddenly understood. It was as if she was sitting in a treasure mountain, but she didn't know that she was in a treasure mountain. How could she forget about the refining cauldron? It seemed that she had always used the refining cauldron on other objects, but she had never thought of using the refining cauldron to cultivate her body. She thought of it, she would do it. There shouldn't be anyone else here. Hua! In a flash of light, she took out the refining cauldron, and a circle of light with a radius of about 2 meters appeared around her. As long as Lin Muyu activated her true qi, it would immediately produce flames to refine the objects in the cauldron. Looking around, Lin Muyu's eyes were ordinary and she said speechlessly, "But which stones contain the most spiritual energy? Is it those stones in the pond?" Lulu squinted her beautiful eyes and looked around and said with a smile, How would those stupid old men in the holy temple know which stones have the most spiritual energy? They are just trying to figure it out. Actually, brother, look at that fake mountain. The biggest red stone is the one with the most spiritual energy, but they are using it to decorate it. Use your sharp sword to cut a piece and give it a try." Lin Muyu jumped onto the fake mountain, and with a swing of his sword, a stone the size of a wash basin fell into his hand. Holding the stone, he slowly landed on the ground and stepped into the refining cauldron. As soon as he let go, the stone slowly floated in front of him. He slowly breathed out his true qi, and the 4 walls of the refining cauldron immediately extended out tongues of flame to surround the stone. He closed his eyes and his consciousness began to enter the stone, analyzing its composition. Just as Lei Hong had said, the stone had been accumulating for a long time, and each gap contained an extremely rich spiritual energy. This mysterious spiritual energy had been sleeping for tens of thousands of years, and at this time, the flames in the refining cauldron were slowly disintegrating the outer layer of the stone. He couldn't break the stone too quickly, or else the spiritual energy would be lost along with the stone. This was a long process, and after nearly an hour the stone finally began to be analyzed. The outermost layer of the stone was peeling off, revealing the spiritual energy layer inside. Under the moonlight, this layer was shining with a bright light, very mesmerizing. Lin Muyu's forehead was covered with sweat, and Lulu clapped her hands and smiled. "Big brother, you're so good, you can see the spiritual energy layer, keep it up." The spiritual energy particles flew out from the cracks of the stone, and then wantonly flew around the refining cauldron. These spiritual energies were like mindless spirits, some calm, some restless, but no matter how much they flew, they couldn't fly out of the refining cauldron. After nearly 2 hours, all the spiritual energies were finally released from the stone. Inside the refining cauldron, aside from a pile of crushed stones on the ground, there were countless fluorescent lights flying around. "It's starting." Lin Muyu stretched his arms, calmed his mind and completely stretched his body. Then he released his true qi, urging the refining cauldron to guide the spiritual energy to refine his skin. In an instant, the strong burning sensation on the surface of his skin almost made him faint, and he even wondered if refining his own skin was really possible. "Keep it up, big brother." Lulu opened her big watery eyes to cheer him on. Lulu was one with him and she would never harm him. Lin Muyu knew this, so he persevered. Soon after the shocking pain, star-shaped spiritual energy particles began to seep into his skin, slowly regenerating the burned skin layer and fusing with it. Very quickly, new skin appeared inch by inch. Is this the refining of skin? Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. This was simply a process of destruction to the body and soul. First, the skin was destroyed and then the spiritual energy was integrated to reconstruct the skin. This cultivation method was simply too inhumane. However, after more than an hour, he had completely refined the stone. His skin looked as if it had been reborn, and even the wounds from the day had been completely healed. Lightly clenching his fist, he could feel a faint and thick energy around his fist. He didn't need to test it to know that this layer of skin had been reborn, and the defensive power it could provide was definitely not something that could be compared to before. Suddenly he punched out and with a ping, a piece of green stone was smashed into pieces. His fist and wrist felt a pulse, but there wasn't much pain. In other words, the feeling of his skin was still there, but it was much tougher. Even when he punched the stone, he didn't feel much. He tried again and no longer used his true chi to attack. Peng! The green stone trembled slightly and a fist pit was left on it. His fist also felt some pain, and in general his skin was indeed different from before. Excited, he waved his sword and cut off another piece of red stone, and continued to cultivate. Under the starlight, 2 old men stood on top of a pavilion in the distance. One of them was Lei Hong. "This kid chose the scarlet essence stone to cultivate," Lei Hong said. The other old man was one of the 12 deacons, the good old Guyang. He stroked his beard and said with a smile, "The scarlet essence stone is known as one of the hardest stones in the world. It's too difficult to absorb the spirit chi in the scarlet essence stone. But he seems to have done it. What is the origin of that ball of light? I don't know, but this kid is getting more and more interesting," Guyang said with a smile. That's right. A talent that old devil Chu Chu likes is definitely not ordinary. Alright, what should we do about Jinfeng? If the Divine Marquis asks for Lin Muyu to be punished, I'm afraid we won't be able to do anything," Lei Hong said worriedly. Guyang shook his head. "Brother, you don't need to worry about that. Jinfeng is an arrogant person and he definitely wants to kill Lin Muyu with his own hands. As long as we make Lin Muyu unkillable, we can naturally protect this good seedling." N. Chapter 54. In the next 2 days, apart from working as a sparring partner, Lin Muyu spent almost all of his time at the side of the fake mountain. The results of his cultivation were also very obvious. The scarlet essence stone that was at least a few meters tall had been completely refined into a pile of stone powder, and the spirit energy contained within had been completely absorbed. The effects were obvious and he could almost be called a copper skin now. Needless to say, Zhang Wei, Lei Ying and the other instructors were already amazed by Lin Muyu's transformation. As a sparring partner, she was not injured after a few days. This was definitely unprecedented in the history of the Holy Sanctum. In these few days, Lin Muyu did not go to visit Chu Yao because his identity had already been exposed. That Jinfeng had his eyes on him, so there was no need to bring trouble to Chu Yao. On the contrary, Chu Yao had the protection of her brother Chu Huai. After all, Chu Huai was one of the 200 imperial guards in the imperial palace. His identity was special and others might not dare to offend Chu Yao. In the evening after dinner, Lin Muyu took his leave of absence and left the divine temple. It was the day to buy daily necessities and Qin Xiling was by his side. Qin Xiling admired Lin Muyu's cultivation and had a willing to be his little brother attitude. However, Lin Muyu did not plan on taking in a little brother, so he treated him as a friend. The streets of the imperial city were also quite lively at night. Lin Muyu carried the burning prairie sword on his back and walked briskly on the stone road. Qin Xiling followed closely behind, his forehead covered in sweat as he smiled and said, "Lin Ji, don't run so fast. Tell me, what are you looking for?" "A weapons store. Which is the best weapons store in the imperial city? Can Xiling take me there?" "Oh." Qin Xiling muttered to himself and said, "The one with the best sales is in the northern part of the city, but the one with the most quality weapons is the Wanxing weapons store in the southern part of the city. It is said that they even sell spirit weapons. Hey, let's go." After running for nearly half an hour, they arrived at the southern part of the city. They could see the signboard of the Wanxing weapons store from afar, and the signboard of a brothel in the distance. After entering the store, the shop assistant did not pay attention to the 2 youths. However, a question from Lin Muyu caught his attention. "May I ask, where is the best weapon here?" The shop assistant was stunned and looked closely at Lin Muyu. He didn't think he had much money. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Can you afford the best weapon?" Lin Muyu smiled. I'm sorry, I'm actually here to sell weapons. Look at this." He took out the burning prairie sword and handed it over. The shop assistant pulled out half of the sword with a clang. He couldn't help but reveal a look of joy on his face as he said, "Third-grade spirit weapon, good stuff. Young hero, how did you get this?" Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and smiled. "There's no need for you to know that. Tell me, do you have anything better than this sword? What are you talking about? Of course there is. Come with me. The shop assistant led them to a corridor and said respectfully, Shopkeeper, there is a young hero who wants to see the most precious weapon of our Wanxing weapons store. The door opened and a spirited old man appeared in the hall. His eyes were shining. When he saw the burning prairie sword on Lin Muyu's back, a strange look flashed across his eyes. He was an expert, so he could naturally tell that the sword was not an ordinary weapon. He smiled and said, Young hero, please come in. Lin Muyu walked in and found that the weapons in the front hall were actually ordinary weapons of the highest quality. However, the weapons in this room looked so extraordinary. He could even feel the sharpness of some of the weapons when he got close to them, which made him shudder. When he stood in front of a large saber, the old shopkeeper smiled and said, Green Lion Saber, first stage mysterious grade. It was once used by warrior sage Zhou Xian. It's a treasure of our store priced at 400,000 Jinin coins, but no one can buy it. Lin Muyu was speechless. It was too expensive. His monthly salary was only 100 Jinin coins, 1,200 a year. He would have to spend 333 years in the holy temple without eating or drinking to afford this saber. Moreover, he was already a tall, rich and handsome with a high salary in the capital. If it was a poor loser like Qin Xiling with a monthly salary of 5 Jinin coins, he would have to be beaten for tens of thousands of years before he could afford it. Soon he walked in front of a fiery red longbow. He had a carved bow, but no matter how he looked at it, it couldn't compare to this one. This was because the bowstring of this bow glowed with a sparkling and translucent light, just like moonlight. It was obvious that this was a treasure. The shopkeeper smiled and said, Snow Jade Moon Bow, 5th stage Saint grade. Legend has it that it was the weapon of goddess Murong Yen, who stepped into the divine state more than 3,000 years ago. After she ascended, she left this bow behind. In the end, it passed through many hands and landed in this old man's hands. The price is 800,000 Jinin coins. Lin Muyu was speechless again. This bow was indeed a good bow, but he definitely couldn't afford it. Shopkeeper, could it be that the blacksmiths in the capital can't forge spirit grade and mysterious grade weapons? Why are these weapons so ridiculously expensive? He asked the question in his heart. The shopkeeper laughed heartily. Young hero, the majority of famous blacksmiths don't cultivate, so their lifespan is only 100 years. Moreover, famous blacksmiths are rarely seen in this world. Only a few of them appear in tens of thousands of years. Many people can only forge 1 or 2 representative pieces in their lifetime, so naturally spirit grade and mysterious grade weapons are very rare. As he said this, he revealed an unfathomable smile and said, Young hero, do you know what the people in the capital call me? And what do they call you? Sword Elder. Why? Qin Ziling couldn't help but ask. Because this old man has been obsessed with swordsmanship my entire life. The Sword Elder laughed heartily and suddenly raised his hand. The burning prairie sword on Lin Muyu's back was suddenly unsheathed. Under the control of an invisible force, it flipped in the air and emitted a series of whistling sounds. Lin Muyu raised his head and his face revealed a trace of shock. Without waiting for him to react, the Sword Elder pressed his palm down and the burning prairie sword automatically returned to its sheath. He didn't give Lin Muyu much time to react. Senior, your swordsmanship is truly outstanding and unparalleled. Lin Muyu's heart was full of respect. The Sword Elder proudly stroked his beard and laughed. I can't say that I'm unparalleled, but I do have a treasure that is truly unparalleled. Young hero, do you want to see it? The Sword Elder walked to the side of a wall and lightly pressed a mechanism. The wall trembled and a drawer-like container automatically extended out. The Sword Elder took out a long black box from inside and placed it on the table. He smiled and said, Please take a look. Lin Muyu walked forward and opened the box. He discovered that it was a very simple and unadorned longsword. He picked it up and pulled out a section of the sword's blade. Suddenly he felt an invisible wave of air ripple around him. The sword's light was clear and cold. The sword's blade's design was also very classical. The sword's body was transparent and bright. It was as if layers of starlight were densely covering it. It was very beautiful. The most important thing was that the sword's blade had overlapping edges. The design was almost impossible to see with the naked eye. This made Lin Muyu even more shocked. His refining skills included blacksmithing. This sword was absolutely rare in the world. What kind of character is this? Senior, this is truly a peerless sword. He sincerely praised. The sword elder was very satisfied with his performance and laughed. This sword is called Star Sword. It is a third-rank Saint grade sword. Sharpness is far better than the Azure Lion Saber and the Snow Jade Moonbow. It is the real treasure of this shop. This old man can even be sure that in the entire empire, there isn't a sword that is comparable to the Star Sword. Young hero, what do you think? Lin Muyu couldn't bear to let go of the Star Sword. He said, it is truly unparalleled. How much is this sword? Priceless treasure. The sword elder shook his head and sighed with a smile. In fact, no one can afford to buy this priceless divine weapon. Even this old man is not willing to sell it. When I die, I will bury this sword with me. I just hope that it won't be stolen by some heartless grave robber. Lin Muyu couldn't help but jokingly said, then when Senior is buried, remember to tell me the specific grave location. The sword elder also laughed. He didn't care because this was the best affirmation of this sword. Young hero, do you still want to buy or sell the sword? The sword elder asked again. Lin Muyu shook his head. No, the Wanxing weapon shop was an eye-opener for me. Thank you, sword elder, for letting us see such a treasure. Thank you. You're welcome. I won't send you off. In fact, the sword elder was a person who loved swords. From his name, it could be seen that there were people who appreciated his treasures. This was his greatest pleasure. Lin Muyu was thinking about what kind of achievements the weapon forging technique could achieve in this world. Would she be able to forge a divine weapon that was comparable to the Star Sword? It was a bit difficult, but if she didn't work hard, how would she know? Passing through the corridor, a group of soldiers was training in the backyard. There were so many treasures in the weapon shop. It seemed that it was unrealistic to not have enough military strength to protect them. Although there were imperial guards patrolling the city at night. On the way back, Qin Ziling was very surprised at the reason why Lin Muyu came to the weapon shop. Lin Muyu didn't say much. Regarding his weapon forging technique, it was better to keep it a secret. After all, an ordinary man's wealth would cause him to get into trouble. If others knew that he had such a powerful weapon forging cauldron, they might even want to get rid of it. As they were walking, the sound of horse hooves suddenly came from the street in front of them. Hundreds of cavalrymen were rushing towards them. Be careful. Lin Muyu was agile and brought Qin Ziling away from the cavalry's charge. Qin Ziling was so scared that his face turned pale. What's going on? Why are they in such a hurry? Whose army is this? Looking in the direction of the cavalry, there was still an endless stream of cavalrymen behind them. They came from a mansion with a very high status. Above the entrance were 4 large golden words. 7 Seas Tang Sect. Qin Ziling stared blankly. It's 7 Seas City's Duke Songlan's army. What's going on? Lin Muyu's heart trembled and said, Duke Songlan, is he Tang Xiaoxi's grandfather? That's right. You also know Lin Ji. Lin Muyu didn't say so much. She quickly squeezed through the crowd of onlookers and grabbed the collar of a middle-aged uncle. She asked anxiously, Uncle, what happened to the Tang sect? This uncle was still amiable. Seeing that Lin Muyu was carrying a sword on her back, he said very politely, 7 days ago the Tang sect's eldest miss, Tang Xiaoxi, brought her guards out of the city and entered the dragon-seeking forest to find a brat called Lin Muyu. Who would have thought that she would be chased by the Hall of Chivalry? It is unknown whether Tang Xiaoxi is dead or alive. At night, the surviving guards rushed back, so they have now sent out an army to search for Princess Tang Xiaoxi's whereabouts. Xiaoxi, she went to find me? Lin Muyu's mind instantly went blank. Chapter 55. The moonlight shone softly on the forest, and the dragon-seeking forest was as peaceful as ever. The sound of hooves galloping could be heard. A group of people were moving in a hurry, but their numbers were not small. This was a cavalry formation of 2,000 people, led by Feng Jixing, the commander of the imperial army. Their mission was to find the whereabouts of Tang Xiaoxi, the Countess of the Seven Seas. If they could not find her, there was no need for Feng Jixing to return to the imperial capital. Feng Jixing was anxious, his heart was burning with anxiety. Behind him, a petite figure with a thin sword on her back followed closely. Her cloak fluttered in the night wind, revealing a beautiful face. It was the imperial princess, Qin Yin. She gritted her teeth and said, "If anything happens to Xiaoxi, I will wipe out the entire house of chivalry in the empire. I will not hesitate to spill blood for thousands of miles." Feng Jixing remained silent. He believed that Qin Yin would do what she said. If not for her affection for her best friend Tang Xiaoxi, the princess would not have sneaked out of the imperial palace in the middle of the night. Lanyan City, imperial capital. Lin Muyu rushed back to the holy sanctum and was about to take her horse from the stable when she saw a man wearing a gold star shouting from afar. "Lin Ji, where are you going so late at night? Don't you know that the holy sanctum prohibits people from going out at night?" Lin Muyu ignored him, got on her horse and left. "Stop right there." The man grabbed the reins and shouted, "You're too arrogant, aren't you? I told you to stop, did you hear me?" With the help of the moonlight, Lin Muyu saw the man's face clearly. It was Ouyang Qiu, one of the Gold Star instructors. His swordsmanship was outstanding and he was known as the best swordsman in the holy sanctum. It was a pity that he was from Zhenfang, so he had repeatedly gone against Lin Muyu. If not for Reihong protecting him, Ouyang Qiu's sword would have pierced through Lin Muyu's neck. What happened? From afar, one of the deacons, Guyang, shouted, "Instructor Ouyang Lin Ji, what's wrong?" Ouyang Qiu said, "This brat Lin Ji is riding a horse in the middle of the night. He has already violated the temple's rules. Deacon, please punish him severely." Guyang furrowed his brows and continued to speak with the attitude of a good person. "Instructor Ouyang, don't be anxious. I think there must be a reason why Lin Ji is in such a hurry to leave. Let's listen to him first." Ouyang Qiu nodded indignantly. Riding on the horse, Lin Muyu said anxiously, "Deacon Guyang, my friend was ambushed in the dragon-seeking forest and his life is uncertain. I have to go now, please allow me to go." Guyang asked, "Who is your friend?" "Tang Xiaoxi. Princess Xi." Guyang was stunned. "Lin Ji, you actually know Princess Xi?" "Yes." Guyang smiled and said, "Princess Xi was ambushed in the dragon-seeking forest, and her life is uncertain. Everyone in the imperial capital is very anxious. But the Imperial Guards have already sent tens of thousands of people into the dragon-seeking forest to search, and you won't make a difference. It's better for you to stay in the Imperial capital and cultivate. Moreover, even if you're a good friend, you might not have to go." "But she was ambushed because of me." Lin Muyu suddenly stopped talking. If she continued, she would be exposed and it would be the same as announcing her identity. Ouyang Qiu sneered, "For you? Why?" Lin Muyu was speechless. At this moment, Guyang smiled and said, "How about this? I, Guyang, as a deacon, will allow you to leave the city for 3 days. You must return to the imperial capital after 3 days and return quickly. How about that?" "Thank you, deacon." Lin Muyu raised his whip and the horse rushed out with a neigh. Ouyang Qiu was shocked. "Deacon Guyang, what are you doing?" Guyang hurriedly put his arm around Ouyang Qiu's shoulder and said with a smile, "Brother, we're all from the Divine Palace. Who doesn't have some urgent matters? Why make things difficult for this kid? Come over to my place for a drink. I just got some deer meat from the market and it's very fresh and tender. Brother, it would be a pity if you don't try it." "Yes, all right." Ouyang Qiu was after all just an instructor and his status could not be compared to Deacon Guyang. Since the other party was so courteous, he did not continue to make things difficult for him. The moonlight shone on the mountain range, making it look pale. The road under the trees was densely packed with cavalry, and the tranquility of the dragon-seeking forest was broken. Feng Jixing held his saber and his expression did not look too good. He sniffed hard and said loudly, "Slow down, be careful, there seems to be a bloody smell here." "What's wrong, General Feng?" Qin Yin asked. Feng Jixing gritted his teeth and said, "Your Highness, we've already entered the unknown depths of the dragon-seeking forest. This is a forbidden area. According to the Empire's map, the spirit beasts that appear in this area are extremely powerful, and there might even be a 10,000-year-old sacred beast. It's not something that we can handle, so try to slow down and not make too much noise." Although Qin Yin was worried about Tang Xiaoxi's safety, she knew that some things could not be rushed. At this moment, a miserable howl came from the front, followed by the deafening roar of a wild beast, and the tranquility of the entire forest was completely broken. "What's wrong?" Feng Jixing asked loudly. A cavalry galloped over and said, "Lord Commander, there's a giant python that can spit fire in the forest ahead. No one has seen it before. The front camp. The front camp has already lost close to 100 brothers. What? Follow me. Feng Jixing was anxious and furious, and he rushed over with his saber in hand. Qin Yin also immediately spurred her horse forward. Under the moonlight, flames soared into the sky. A giant python twisted its huge body and wreaked havoc in the forest, entangling a dozen cavalrymen and their mounts. Then it opened its mouth and swallowed a living person. That person did not even have the time to scream. Feng Jixing looked over and felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. He said loudly, "I'll block it and protect Her Highness' retreat. We'll take a detour. There's no way to go here." Luo Lai hurriedly said, "Lord Commander, we don't know how long this python has lived, but if we attack together we should be able to kill it." "No." Feng Jixing gritted his teeth and said, "Don't you see the two protruding marks on the python's head? This is a dragon snake with a lifespan of 10,000 years. Furthermore, it has just entered the breakthrough period and will soon evolve into a true dragon. Its strength is far above ours. Hurry up and protect Her Highness." "Yes." But at this moment the dragon snake seemed to be able to understand human voices. It suddenly let out a long hiss, released the group of people and directly swallowed them. It opened its mouth and a ball of flames burned dozens of cavalrymen into charcoal. "Protect Her Highness." Nearly 100 cavalrymen rushed over. Their iron swords and spears landed on the dragon snake's scales, but they could only produce sparks. They could not pierce through it all. And this dragon snake already knew that it had to kill the most important person in this group first. It was the girl in the golden cloak. She was the core of this group of people. Feng Jixing's saber was enshrouded in a vast amount of battle energy. He suddenly leaped up, and after a loud shout, the image of a purple wild wolf appeared around his body. This was his martial soul. Purple electric flame wolf, a second-grade martial soul. The saber went against the wind and slashed heavily at the dragon snake's head. In the midst of the sparks, the dragon snake let out a roar. The scales on its head finally cracked slightly, revealing a pale white thing underneath. It looked like a bone, but Feng Jixing knew that it was not a bone. It was obviously a dragon horn that was about to break out of its shell. This dragon snake was originally a snake, but after cultivating for 10,000 years, it was about to evolve into a dragon. Roar. An ear-piercing hiss rang out, and the impact of the sound wave caused Feng Jixing to fall back. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his chest felt like it had been struck heavily. He never expected this dragon snake to be so strong. After beating Feng Jixing back, the dragon snake quickly slithered over and swept its tail horizontally, turning more than a dozen cavalrymen and their horses into a pile of meat paste. The smell of blood quickly filled the air. Ugh. Qin Yin knew that she was no match for the dragon snake, but she could not escape either. She could only turn around and open her palms. Her martial soul appeared out of thin air, and a dazzling golden chain flew up. It quickly turned from rigid to soft, and suddenly wrapped around the dragon snake's open mouth. No one expected the princess to have such a cultivation. But before they could celebrate, the dragon snake suddenly opened its mouth again, and actually broke the god-binding chains. Ah! Qin Yin let out a muffled groan. Her martial soul had been attacked and blood flowed out of the corner of her mouth. The dragon snake roared and rushed forward, opening its mouth to bite. Pooh! A poisonous fang pierced into the princess's chest, but before it could bite down, Feng Jixing's saber arrived again. With a roar, he slashed at the dragon snake's vital point. Roar! The giant beast finally felt the pain. Its body twisted and it let go of Qin Yin to pounce on Feng Jixing. Woo-woo, Qin Yin whimpered and lay on the back of the horse. She felt a burning pain in her chest and her skin began to turn purple. The warhorse she sat on neighed in fright, and its 4 hooves ran into the forest. It was originally a 1,000-mile horse and the surrounding cavalry could not catch up. They could only watch as the little princess disappeared into the forest. On the mountain path full of thorns, a black shadow galloped over. Qin Yin's warhorse was frightened and she could not care less. Ping. Ah, what's that? Lin Muyu did not have time to react and a soft body crashed into her arms. Both of them fell off the warhorse and rolled at an extremely fast speed down the cliff full of sharp stones and thorns. In a hasty glance, Lin Muyu had already seen that it was a beautiful girl who had crashed into her arms. She immediately used her body to protect her, and all the sharp stones fell on her body. Fortunately, the results of her skin-refining training these days were obvious. She rolled for almost 1,000 meters and only stopped near the valley. Qin Yin's face was pale. She looked up and saw that it was a handsome young man who was hugging her, but she still pushed him away out of reflex. "Don't touch me." The dignified princess of the empire had never been hugged so intimately by a man. "As if I care." Lin Muyu glanced at her and immediately understood everything. "But you're poisoned, and if you don't treat it, you'll die." "That's none of your business." Qin Yin was still on guard against him. Lin Muyu was worried about Tang Xiaoxi's safety, so she did not care. She staggered to her feet and found the burning prairie sword not far away. Qin Yin's heart softened when she saw the wounds caused by the stones and thorns on his body. She knew that this person had just saved her, and her body was becoming limp and numb after falling into the valley. If this person did not save her, she might really die. Can you really detoxify it?" Qin Yin murmured. "This is the venom of a 10,000-year-old spiritual beast, a dragon snake." Lin Muyu sneered inwardly. "I'm a master medicine refiner. What kind of poison can I not detoxify?" He stretched out his hand. 1,000 Jinin coins to save your life. Otherwise there's no need to talk." Qin Yin was stunned and her face almost turned green. "Where do you think I can store so much money on me?" Lin Muyu looked at her luxurious clothes and said, "Then why don't you write an IOU? You want someone to save your life, yet you're so unruly. I think you really don't know how to behave yourself." Qin Yin was filled with grief and indignation. She wanted nothing more than to be poisoned and die immediately. At this moment, a wave of dizziness hit her and her body swayed uncontrollably. Lin Muyu also noticed her abnormality. The poison was indeed serious, so he did not talk about money anymore. He lightly placed a finger on Qin Yin's shoulder, and a strong wave of vital energy flowed into her. He said, "I'll use my vital energy to help you seal the flow of the venom in your veins, but I still need to find herbs to refine the antidote. Can you hold on for a while?" Qin Yin was already on the verge of collapse. She squinted her beautiful eyes and looked at the handsome youth's face under the moonlight. She was a little dazed. She nodded and said, "Okay, hurry up." Chapter 56. The forest was very dark, and it was almost impossible to see anything clearly in the middle of the night. A cloud floated over their heads and even the stars were dim. Lin Muyu had no choice but to pull out the burning prairie sword and activate her vital energy. Instantly, flames surged from the sword, illuminating the path ahead. "Antidote. Antidote." He kept muttering, but in his heart he was thinking about the 3 antidotes in the alchemy recipe. One was a level 1 medicine which could only cure symptoms with low toxicity. The second was a level 5 medicine, and the third was a level 9 medicine. This level 9 medicine was called heart calming powder, and most people in this world did not know how to refine it. However, only the heart calming powder could cure this beauty's poison. After all, it was the dragon snake's poison, and normal antidotes would not be able to do anything. The spirit concentration powder could only be consumed in advance to prevent poisoning, but for symptoms that had already been poisoned, only the heart calming powder could cure it. "Boo." He called out softly, and very quickly a faint green light flew out of his eye. The elf female official Lulu rubbed her sleepy eyes and asked, "Brother, what's wrong?" "I'm in a deep sleep to recover the spiritual energy that I lost last time. Help me see if there are any heart-calming grass and dragon saliva grass around here." Lulu widened her eyes, looked around and said, "Dragon-seeking forest. Let me think, I just searched for resources here a few days ago." "Brother, the heart-calming grass is not far away, just 2 miles ahead. As for the dragon saliva grass, it's a bit far, 10 miles away. Do you want to look for it? It's so far and the sky is so dark. Especially the dragon saliva grass, it grows in a cave and there's a dragon snake beast living inside." Lin Muyu clenched her teeth. It was probably this dragon snake that injured the beauty just now, right? Forget it, saving a life is better than building a 7-storied pagoda. Go. He immediately activated falling star steps and charged into the distance like a meteor. Within a few minutes he stopped beside a huge rock and sniffed it. A familiar scent drifted over. It was the heart-calming grass. Lowering his head, he saw a faint glow coming from under the rock. It was like starlight. It was the heart-calming grass. Excited, he stretched out his arm and gently pulled at the bottom of the rock. Instantly, a stalk of heart-calming grass appeared in his palm. He continued to gather more and kept them in his arms. Then he stood up and said, "Lulu, lead the way. We're going to find the dragon saliva grass." The female elven official flapped her transparent wings and flew into the distance at an extremely fast speed. Fortunately, Lin Muyu's falling star step wasn't slow either. She followed closely behind the female elven official. 10 miles wasn't too far, but it wasn't too short either. After arriving, she was slightly out of breath. In front of the towering stone wall, an ancient tree towered into the sky. At the root of the tree was a large hole that extended all the way down. Lin Muyu guessed that the dragon snake had yet to return from its hunt, so there shouldn't be too much danger here. She took the burning prairie sword and stepped in. Ugh! An extremely fishy smell almost made him faint. Looking at the surrounding ground, there were bones of wild beasts everywhere. He could even see human skulls, which were hideous and horrifying. After walking down for almost 5 minutes, he finally saw a stalk of fluorescent dragon saliva grass on the stone wall. Dragon saliva grass was a level 9 herb. It was almost extinct on the continent. This dragon snake was about to ascend to become a real dragon, so it produced some dragon energy. Under the years of exposure, a small amount of dragon saliva grass grew. It could be considered as an opportunity. He quickly gathered all the dragon saliva grass here and put them into his pocket. He actually felt an inexplicable sense of satisfaction. Just as he was gathering all the dragon saliva grass, he suddenly thought that since he had entered deep into the tiger's den, he might as well search again. Dragons all like to collect treasures. This dragon snake had lived for at least 10,000 years, so it must have collected a lot of treasures, right? Step by step he walked into the deepest part of the cave. However, he was disappointed. There were only 7 or 8 snake eggs placed on the dry grass. As for treasures, there was none. Crack. The eggshell of a snake egg cracked open. Accompanied by a jia-jia sound, a small dragon snake broke out of the eggshell. It innocently swam towards Lin Muyu as if it was looking for its mother. Lin Muyu was speechless. It kicked the little snake away and said, "Go away, silly thing. This old man is not your mother. But this old man doesn't mind getting rid of your mommy." At this moment, a sharp cry came from outside. It sounded like a dragon's cry, but also like a snake's hiss. Immediately Lin Muyu's body trembled. Was its mommy coming back soon? At this time, it didn't seem like it could deal with this with its own strength. It had to leave. It quickly left the cave, carrying the burning prairie sword and returning along the path it came from. The clouds dispersed and the stars still softly scattered in the forest. Qin had already fainted. Her face was purple and the poison was too deep. "Wake up, miss." Lin Muyu shook her arm forcefully. Only then did Qin slowly wake up. Her head was still burning and she looked at Lin Muyu and said, "Did you find the antidote?" "Yes, but I only found some herbs. I need to refine the medicine. Don't sleep anymore or else you won't wake up." Lin Muyu looked at her face and couldn't help but feel a bit of heartache. If such a beautiful girl were to be poisoned to death, then it would be such a pity. Being able to save her life could be considered a great contribution to the world. After all, there were so many girls in the world and such a beautiful girl was rarely seen. Even Tang Xiaoxi's beauty was slightly inferior to her. He sat down on the ground and put down the heart-calming grass. He raised one hand and began to refine the medicine. This was not all. He also raised his left hand and began to refine the medicine of the dragon saliva grass. The essence condensing hand was enough for him to do this. After all, it was known as the world's #1 medicine refining technique. Qin leaned against a rock and almost didn't have the strength to open her eyes. She could only squint her beautiful eyes and watch the youth refine medicine. Under the starlight, the light of the essence condensing hand was faintly discernible, and illuminated Lin Muyu's resolute face. Perhaps it was because of the overload of work, but his forehead began to drip with sweat. He exhaled more air than he inhaled. He was purely relying on his true qi to refine medicine. Just who is he? Qin asked again and again in her heart. She had seen the scene of imperial medicine refiners refining medicine, and even the scene of king medicine refiners working. However, she had never seen anyone like the youth in front of her, who could refine two different kinds of medicine at the same time. It should be known that there were many ways to refine medicine, and every kind of medicine had its own unique refining method. About 10 minutes later, he hurriedly refined two kinds of medicine and placed them on the white cloth. Lin Muyu took out a few small bottles and water from his waist pocket. These were all prepared in advance. After all, as an alchemist, it was necessary to carry these things with him at all times. He gently raised his finger, and his true qi guided wisps of medicine into the small bottles. Soon a bottle was filled. He closed the bottle cap and shook it hard. Then he placed the small bottle in his palm. His true qi slowly rose from his palm and lingered around the small bottle. This was the most important step in refining the heart-calming powder. Using the gentle force of his true qi to promote the combination of two kinds of medicine. Perhaps there were people in this world who knew the formula and proportion of the heart-calming powder, but there were definitely not many people who knew the technique. He might even be the only one who knew. Not long after, the first bottle of heart-calming powder was officially completed. Done. He wiped his sweat, looked up and said with a smile. Qian was slightly stunned. She didn't know what to do, so she just nodded and said softly, what? Hurry up and take off your clothes. Qian Yin's heart skipped a beat. The young girl's shyness made her instantly blush. She asked, "Why do I have to take off my clothes? Do I have to use blood to detoxify like those Jianghu practitioners?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. "Let blood? No need. How can that third-rate detoxification method enter my eyes? Besides, blood is the source of power. Letting blood to detoxify is a huge waste. Don't worry, my antidote can automatically detoxify the poison in your blood. It won't cause any harm to you." "Then why do I have to take off my clothes?" Qian asked in a low voice. This. Lin Muyu was instantly confused. He couldn't possibly say that he wanted to see how her breasts looked like. That seemed a little rude. After all, they had only met by chance. "You need to sprinkle the antidote on your wound. Your wound is on your chest," he said. Qian nodded lightly. Her face was flushed and she was so embarrassed that she wanted to commit suicide. "I don't have any strength in my body. Help me take off my clothes, but you have to close your eyes." "Got it." Lin Muyu carefully reached out and unbuttoned her cloak. There was a golden flower embroidered on the button, which was exactly the same as the pattern on the gold ing coins. This beauty must have come from a rich family. Even the buttons were made of pure gold. Qian closed her eyes. Her delicate snow-white shoulders trembled slightly. This was a kind of torture for her. In fact, it was also a kind of torture for Lin Muyu. Such a stunning beauty closed her eyes and let him do whatever he wanted. Fortunately, he had strong self-control. Otherwise, who knew what would have happened? The dark purple clothes slowly fell, revealing the white chest wrap below. Lin Muyu almost had a nosebleed when he saw it. This beauty's figure was too good, right? Below the delicate collarbone was snow-white skin. Extending downward, there were two protruding peaks. The ravine in the depths of the peaks was enough to crush thousands of heroes. However, the chest wrap had been pierced through. The blood had already condensed into purple crystals. The poison was very deep. "Does it hurt?" Lin Muyu felt a little heartache just looking at it. Qian frowned, and the corner of her mouth revealed a trace of grievance. "It was very painful before, but now I don't feel it." Where are you looking at?" Lin Muyu hurriedly looked away and turned his head. He gently pinched the top of the chest wrap and pulled it down. Although he couldn't see it, he could imagine the soul-stirring scene. Qian let out a whimper. She had obviously touched the wound. She looked up and saw Lin Muyu turn around. She suddenly found it funny, but more than that, she was shy. Lin Muyu raised the heart-calming powder and tried to figure out the direction of the wound. "Is it here?" "A little to the left." Qian looked at the position of his palm and said, "A little to the right, a little to the front." Where are your hands?" "A little to the back." "It's here." Lin Muyu slowly sprinkled the antidote and said helplessly, "You're so hot-tempered. Fortunately, you met a kind-hearted person like me. Otherwise, humph. Qian secretly laughed. "Anyway, thank you, you're welcome. You promised to give me 1,000 Jinin coins. You won't renege on it, right?" "Of course." Chapter 57. Lin Muyu closed his eyes and held Qin Yin in his arms. He reached behind her to help her put on her clothes. Qin Yin's face was blushing, and her nose was filled with the other's scent. She seemed to have fallen into a very subtle state. After putting on her clothes, Qin Yin also felt a warmth in her chest. The heart-calming powder took effect very quickly. It was like a warm current that melted the body that had been frozen by the snake venom from her wound. Even the intense pain from her wound made Qin Yin understand that she had been saved. This brat really had some ability. He could even cure the dragon snake's venom. Feeling gradually returned to her arm. She quickly gathered her clothes and said, "Thank you, you're welcome. Where's the fee?" Lin Muyu was busy refining the other bottles of antidote. "Why, do you care so much about money?" Qin Yin sat up straight and regained some of the Empire's princess temperament. Of course, Lin Muyu could not say that he wanted to learn blacksmithing and needed money to buy materials, so he said, "How would a daughter of a rich family like you understand the difficulties of us poor children? In short, we need money. Without money we can't do anything." As he spoke, he put away the antidote he had refined and stood up with the burning prairie sword. "I have urgent matters to attend to. All right, tell me your address. I'll pay you a visit later to ask for money." Qin Yin could not help but smile. "All right, I live in the capital's Tongtian Street 1. Tongtian Street." Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said with a smile, "Then it's on the same street as the War Holy Temple. That makes things easier." "You're from the War Holy Temple?" Qin Yin was stunned. "Yes." Lin Muyu scratched his head and said with a smile, "I still have urgent matters to attend to. I'll be leaving first." Under Qin Yin's gaze, Lin Muyu swept away and disappeared into the darkness in the blink of an eye. After searching for a long time in the forest, he still couldn't find the horse he had lost. Instead, he saw many cavalrymen carrying torches walking through the forest, looking for something. "Most of them are here to look for Xiaoxi," he thought to himself. He stopped looking for war horses and turned to rush into the fertile field. Suddenly, he realized that he had forgotten something. That's right, he had actually forgotten to ask that beauty's name. 1,000 Jin Yin coins might have been wasted. Luckily, he knew the address. "Your Highness! Your Highness!" In the forest, the shouts of the cavalry did not stop. It was late autumn in the dragon-seeking forest, and it was extremely cold at night. Qin Yin pulled her cloak closer, shivering from the cold. Due to her severe injuries, she could not summon her genuine qi, and she did not even have the strength to shout. Step by step, she walked to the jungle path and shouted at the top of her voice, "I'm here." The imperial guards with sharp ears immediately turned around. When they saw the princess standing under the starlight, they immediately felt as if they had been given a new life. They shouted in ecstasy, "General Feng, Her Highness is here." In the distance, Feng Jixing's arm was wrapped in gauze, and the white robe behind him was also dyed red. He held his saber and galloped over on his horse. He quickly dismounted and knelt on one knee. He cupped his fists and said, "I'm late to the rescue. Is your Highness all right?" "I'm fine." Qin Yin nodded and smiled. "General Feng, are you injured?" Feng Jixing shook his head and smiled. "It's just a small injury. However, the Imperial Guards lost many brothers in order to defeat this 10,000-year-old dragon snake. It's really a sin. Fortunately, your Highness is fine." "This is great." He looked at the bandaged wound on Qin Yin's chest and could not help but ask, "Your Highness, weren't you stabbed by the dragon snake's venom?" "The venom. Are you really all right?" "I'm fine. The venom has been neutralized." "How is that possible?" "That's the venom of a 10,000-year-old dragon snake." Feng Jixing was shocked. "How did you neutralize it?" "I met a stranger. He helped me neutralize the venom." "Oh, who is it? What's his name?" "This." Qin Yin was suddenly stunned. Her beautiful face was blank. Oh no, she actually forgot to ask for his name. She was still too careless after all. Feng Jixing seemed to have guessed something. He held back his laughter and continued cupping his fists. "Since that's the case, I'll send someone to escort your Highness back to the capital. I'll continue leading the search and rescue mission for Princess Xi." "No, I want to go personally." "Then, all right." At the break of dawn, the light of the rising sun shone on the dragon-seeking forest. It was late autumn and the maple leaves were like fire. A young girl held a walking stick made of tree branches and walked unsteadily in the mountains. Her small boots had been worn out by the sharp rocks and her snow-white soles were exposed. Looking in the direction of the sun, she pouted and said, "That's the east, then. The southwest should be this direction." No, it seems to be the other direction." As she spoke, she stomped her feet and said resentfully, "Tang Xiaoxi, why don't you study the geographical maps properly? Look at you now, you're lost again." Sob, I'm so hungry." She continued to limp into the distance. She had to go or else she could only wait for death. However, Tang Xiaoxi did not know that a pitch-black leopard was walking slowly on the other side of the mountain range. A pair of merciless eyes stared at her. To the black leopard, she was not a stunning beauty but a delicious breakfast. This was a spiritual beast black leopard with a lifespan of 3,000 years. Moreover, it was in heat and needed a large amount of food to replenish its energy consumption. Its paws made no sound as it stepped on the fallen leaves and gravel, approaching Tang Xiaoxi step by step. Finally, when the two of them were less than 20 meters apart, the black leopard suddenly growled and leaped over. Tang Xiaoxi was immediately alerted. She opened one hand and the firefox martial soul came out of her body. She raised the tree branch in her hand lightly and drew a cross-shaped light in the air. Bang! Who would have thought that the surface of the black leopard's body would actually have a shield made of spiritual power? It instantly broke through Tang Xiaoxi's obstruction and waved its sharp claws, leaving a terrible wound on her shoulder with a crack. If it was a normal day, Tang Xiaoxi would still have the strength to fight, but now that she was covered in wounds and hungry, how could she fight? She hurriedly stepped on the halo of the firefox martial soul and ran away. Roar! The black leopard roared and chased after her. How could it let go of such a delicious meal so easily? Just as the black leopard's sharp claws descended again, the sound of horse hooves came from afar and a familiar voice shouted, "It's Princess Shi, hurry up and follow me." In the maple forest, a white figure galloped over. It was a young man in a white robe, holding a strangely shaped saber in his hand. Before he got close, he jumped up from his horse, opened his hand and shouted in the air, "Bastard, get out of here!" Buzz! The golden light exploded and a golden iron chain appeared out of thin air, directly penetrating the black leopard's abdomen. Immediately, blood and intestines rolled out. This was actually the god-binding chain that was exactly the same as Qin Yin's martial soul. The saber fell like lightning and with a crack, the black leopard's head rolled along the grass. He carried the blood-stained saber and cupped his hands, saying, "Xiaoxi, are you all right? I brought the royal guards to save you." Tang Xiaoxi's body trembled and all the grievances burst out in an instant. Tears flowed down her face. "Brother Qin Lei, you're finally here. I almost died here." Qin Lei's eyes were filled with heartache. "Silly girl, it's all right now. We'll return to Lanyan City after resting for a while. Don't worry, with me here no spirit beast can harm you." Tang Xiaoxi nodded heavily, then said, "Is there anything to eat?" "Yes." Qin Lei immediately fetched some cooked meat and water. Tang Xiaoxi didn't care about being a virtuous lady and wolfed it down. After she finished eating, she wiped her small mouth and felt that she was too unreserved. Thus, she recovered some of the attitude of a princess and said, "Brother Qin Lei, how's the imperial capital?" "Same as usual." Qin Lei held on to his saber and stood at the side of the warhorse, saying, "But I heard that after something happened to you in the dragon-seeking forest, even the emperor was alarmed." "So, the imperial capital dispatched at least 10,000 troops to search for you in the dragon-seeking forest. Luckily I found you. Everyone was worried to death. I heard that. Her Highness Yin also secretly left the palace to look for you." "Xiao Yin Shi." Tang Xiaoxi pursed her red lips. "She'll be fine, right?" "Ah, don't worry. She's with Commander Feng Jixing of the Imperial Guards." Moreover, they set off with a total of 5,000 Imperial Guards. "She should be fine. Look at me, I only brought 2,000 Imperial Guards." Tang Xiaoxi looked at the group of Imperial Guards behind Qin Lei and was a little embarrassed. She smiled and said, "I'm really sorry to everyone causing the imperial capital to mobilize so many troops." Qin Lei smiled honestly and asked, "Xiaoxi, what kind of person is that Lin Muyu? I heard that he's just a felon of the imperial capital. Why would you put yourself in danger for this kind of person?" "No, Lin Muyu is not a felon. He's not that kind of person. Tang Xiaoxi's expression was very resolute as she said, "He saved my life before, so I must come to the dragon-seeking forest to look for him. Unfortunately, I met with the ambush of the House of Chivalry and many of the Imperial Guards died." Qin Lei said, "The duty of a knight is to die for the sake of protecting. Their deaths must be of value. Xiaoxi need not blame yourself too much. Let them set off back to the Imperial capital. I'll release the Yu's letter now and let Her Highness Yin and Feng Jixing know about this matter as soon as possible. Otherwise they will still be searching around like headless flies in the dragon-seeking forest." "And good." The white bird flew up and flapped its wings as it swept across the sky, bringing the news of Tang Xiaoxi. On the vast land, Lin Muyu carried his long sword as he moved swiftly. He avoided all the spiritual beasts in order to find Tang Xiaoxi as soon as possible. However, the route seemed to have deviated. He would never be able to find Tang Xiaoxi in the direction he was heading. Raising his head to look, a white bird flew past. He didn't know who raised it as a messenger bird. On the other side of the continuous mountain range, the bird slowly landed on Feng Jixing's shoulder. He opened the letter and couldn't help but be overjoyed. "Your Highness, General Qin Lei has found Princess Xi." Qin Yin was pleasantly surprised. "Good, where is Xiaoxi?" "I don't know. He arranged for us to meet at the western gate of the imperial capital. And then let's set off quickly." "All right." Chapter 58. Lanyan City was known as the Pearl of Great Qin. It had a population of more than 5 million and was also the capital of the empire. As the sun slowly set, a group of cavalry galloped over from the main road in the distance. Whoosh! Qin Yin suddenly pulled the hem of her cloak and stood up. She looked into the distance with her bright eyes and smiled. Xiaoxi is back. Feng Jixing was rebandaging the wound on his arm. He raised his head and grinned. "Yes, Princess, she is back. Your Highness, you don't have to continue worrying about her this time." Qin Yin galloped away. The night breeze blew her long hair and a purple flower emblem swayed on the belt of her cloak around her neck like a beautiful butterfly. Tang Xiaoxi released the reins in her hands and flew down from the horse. She threw herself into Qin Yin's arms. The two breathtakingly beautiful young ladies hugged each other just like that. "Xiaoxi, are you all right?" Qin Yin looked at her emotionally. Tang Xiaoxi's gaze fell on Qin Yin's chest. Her eyes couldn't help but turn red. "Xiaoyin, are you hurt?" Qin Yin shook her head and smiled. "I'm fine. It's just a small injury." Feng Jixing sat at the side with his saber and muttered to himself, "It's good enough that I'm still alive after being poisoned by a 10,000-year-old dragon snake. How can you say that it's a small injury? People these days really don't care about their lives." "Ah?" Tang Xiaoxi's mouth opened wide. Qin Yin glared at Feng Jixing and said, "You talk too much. When I return to Zetian Palace, I'll complain and get my father to punish you with 2 months' worth of salary." Feng Jixing was taken aback. "Your Highness, I'm just a general with a commoner background. You're taking away my salary, that's equivalent to taking away my life. Furthermore, I've already tried my best to save you. Look, the wound on my arm is proof." Tang Xiaoxi burst into laughter. "All right, stop arguing. Commander Feng Jixing, don't you know how to give in to Xiaoyin? Don't forget that she's the only crown prince. If you really piss her off, you won't have a good time either." Feng Jixing immediately cupped his fists. "Your Highness, please forgive me. Heaven and earth can bear witness to my loyalty. I hope that Your Highness will pardon Feng Jixing's words." Qin Yin smiled faintly. "Just don't undermine me anymore. By the way, Xiaoxi, you only brought a few hundred people into the depths of the dragon-seeking forest. Are you tired of living? Who exactly is that Lin Muyu? Is he worth risking your life for?" "Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi pursed her red lips. Her eyes were red as she said, "He's just an apprentice alchemist, but he's a good person. He's also very good at alchemy. When I was training in the Seven Stars Forest, something went wrong when I was refining the Fire Flood Dragon's beast spirit. If he hadn't risked his life to save me, I'm afraid I would have died in the Seven Stars Forest." "Is that so?" Qin Yin couldn't help but think of the young man from last night. His alchemy technique was also very unique. He could refine 2 types of medicine at the same time. However, she didn't say it out loud. It seemed unnecessary. Who knew what treasure that greedy brat was risking his life for? Let's go back to the Duke's mansion. Qinyin said. You're injured too. You need to rest. You've lost weight. You need to eat more. Boohoo Xiaoyin, you don't know how I've survived these days. When I'm hungry I eat the fruits in the mountains. When I'm thirsty I can only drink the water from the stream. I heard that the spiritual beasts drink and pee in the stream. Alright. I'll treat you to something delicious. A day later. It was almost dusk in the dragon-seeking forest. Faint howls of wolves and tigers could be heard coming from the mountains. This place was full of danger. Almost every mountain was occupied by a spiritual beast that was more than 2,000 years old. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, the young man carried a rabbit he had just hunted and looked around. He was almost lost. Looks like I've gone the wrong way. Xiaoxi isn't here. Lin Muyu calculated the time. The 3-day leave that he had applied for from Guyang, the deacon of the holy sanctum, was almost up. He had to return to Lanyan City before dawn tomorrow. Otherwise, the holy sanctum would definitely punish him. After all, he was a newcomer. It was better not to play truant. With a sigh, he channeled his genuine qi into his feet and dashed into the distance as light as a swallow. He wanted to rush back to Lanyan City before dawn. The horse was lost. It was probably impossible to find it. Lin Muyu secretly regretted. This trip was really an unlucky one. Not only did he lose the horse, he also failed to find Tang Xiaoxi. Before dawn, he arrived at the foot of the city, exhausted. Sup? Who are you? Don't you know that it's forbidden to enter or leave the city at night? The garrison officer at the foot of the city scolded. Lin Muyu approached slowly. The badge of a golden star sparring master of the holy sanctum on his chest was shining. Immediately, the expression of the garrison officer became respectful. He gave a straight military salute and said, "Oh, it's the Lord of the Holy Sanctum. Please enter the city." "Thank you." The Holy Sanctum was also known as the Holy Temple. It was the most sacred temple in the eyes of all the martial artists on the continent. Although Lin Muyu was only a sparring master in the Holy Sanctum, his status was quite distinguished. At least in front of these ordinary soldiers, his status was so outstanding that the garrison officer, even though he was a centurion, was still respectful. When he stepped into the city, his legs felt as if they were filled with lead. His genuine qi was almost exhausted. After a night of running, he replaced the hooves of a horse with his legs, which naturally consumed a lot of his physical strength and genuine qi. Walking along the main street of the city, he found that the name of the street was Tongtian Street. Yes, it was the street where the beautiful girl in the dark purple cloak lived. So Lin Muyu counted the house numbers one by one. After walking for a long time, he finally reached the last few houses. Number 4 Tongtian Street, the Ministry of Justice of Lanyan City, the birthplace of all criminal laws in the Empire. No. 3 Tongtian Street, the Office of the Minister of War, the residence of the Minister of War. No. 2 Tongtian Street, the Hall of Seeking Talents, opened by the Emperor himself, a place to seek talents. Number 1 Tongtian Street, Zetian Palace, the general name of the Imperial Palace of Lanyan City, and also the center of this world. In the distance, a group of Imperial Army cavalrymen slowly moved forward with shiny weapons in their hands. They were patrolling to ensure the safety of the Zetian Palace. The inner palace of the Imperial Palace was continuous, and there were thousands of houses. It was not just extravagant, so it required a lot of guards to guard it. When Lin Muyu saw the huge golden door sign of the Zetian Palace from afar, her whole body trembled. Women are all liars. From afar, a centurion of the Imperial Army rode over and said, "So it's someone from the Holy Temple. Young man, what brings you to the Zetian Palace?" As expected, even the Imperial Army was extremely respectful of the Holy Temple. "May I ask, is the number 1 Tongtian Street the Zetian Palace?" Of course. Only the residence of the Emperor can afford to be called number 1 Tongtian Street. It's fine. Thank you. He turned around and walked away with a blank look on his face. 1,000 Jinin coins had gone down the drain just like that. That girl was beautiful, but she was actually a liar. How unfair. For the entire morning, it was her turn to be a sparring partner for Silver Star instructor Zhang Wei. Zhang Wei's fiery soul fist was extremely violent, and the other sparring partners were not willing to face it. Fortunately, Zhang Wei had a good impression of Lin Muyu, so he allowed Lin Muyu to sleep soundly in the training room while he practiced his fist technique over and over again. After half a day's rest, her physical strength had recovered to 70%, and her vital energy had recovered to 80%. At noon, Deacon Guyang appeared again with a paper scroll in his hand to announce the training matches in the afternoon. Coincidentally, it was Jing Shanhe's turn to be sparring partner for Lin Muyu. This expert who was known for his defense was easier to deal with. However, at this moment a Gold Star instructor carrying a long sword walked out and said with a smile, "Lord Lin Ji is the only Gold Star sparring partner in the Holy Sanctum. He can't always be sparring with old Jing and Zhang Wei." Deacon Ouyang Qiu requests to spar with Lord Lin Ji in the afternoon. "I hope that Deacon can grant my request." Guyang hesitated for a moment and said, "All right, then Lin Ji will spar with Ouyang Qiu in the afternoon." "Thank you, Lord." Ouyang Qiu's eyes were filled with hostility. When he looked at Lin Muyu, a trace of killing intent flashed across his mouth. Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. Ouyang Qiu was young Marquis Zheng Fang's subordinate. Zheng Fang failed to kill her last time and was humiliated instead. If Ouyang Qiu really wanted to kill her, then there really wasn't much she could do. After all, the Holy Sanctum only had rules of iron and blood. If a sparring partner was accidentally killed, then there would only be some compensation. The perpetrator's punishment was nothing more than a few months of confinement and a year or two of forfeiture of salary. Zheng Fang was Zheng Yifan's son, so he wasn't short of money. At this time Lin Muyu couldn't think of anything else. The only thing she could do was to stay strong and live on. After lunch, Lin Muyu's body recovered to its peak condition after a short rest. The true qi in her body was abundant, and she could feel the true qi flowing along her skin when she channeled it. It was a very comfortable feeling, and it was only after training her skin. If it was before, Lin Muyu would definitely be worried about whether she could survive the afternoon. But now there was no need for that. Ouyang Qiu was only a level 61 heavenly venerate. Defeating him was inevitable, but killing him would not be easy. Ding! The bell rang. The afternoon training was about to begin. Lin Muyu carried the burning prairie sword on his back, clenched his fists and walked out of the training hall. His face was full of confidence. The appearance of Ouyang Qiu made him very worried, but it also made him very excited. Only by facing such a strong opponent could he quickly increase his combat experience. In this world, strength was undoubtedly important, but experience was even more important. Strength was not absolute. A level 50 battle saint with rich experience could also defeat a level 60 heavenly venerable who underestimated him. In the training hall, a group of instructors and sparring partners were facing each other. This was the etiquette before training. Lin Muyu stood there with his back straight, with Qin Xiling and a row of sparring partners by his side. He suddenly clenched his right fist in front of his chest and lowered his left hand like a sword. This was the standard military salute of the Empire, and it was also one of the lessons that he had to attend after entering the Holy Temple. The full name of the Holy Temple was the Holy Temple of War. Its main function was to cultivate outstanding warriors for the Empire. Therefore, regardless of whether it was the instructors or sparring partners, they had to serve as soldiers when the war came. Perhaps from the moment he stepped into the Holy Temple, he had already become a soldier of the Empire. "Please enlighten us," everyone said in unison. When he raised his head, Ouyang Qiu, who was standing right in front of him, had a disdainful smile on his face. This made Lin Muyu even more unhappy. Chapter 59. At the Duke of Seven Seas' residence, the rear hall was filled with a refreshing fragrance. Princess Qin Yin's arrival terrified the servants. It was said that the emperor was so concerned about Qin Yin's safety that he almost couldn't resist coming to the duke's residence to visit his daughter. This made everyone in the duke's residence feel flattered. Tang Xiaoxi focused on a whole piece of venison. She held chopsticks in her left hand and a short dagger in her right hand as she skillfully cut the meat. Her pretty face was filled with satisfaction as she said with a smile, "The venison with sweet sauce is so delicious. Xiaoyin, you should eat more too." Qin Yin giggled and looked at her best friend dotingly. She said, "You're still at the third layer of Earth Realm. You should work hard." Tang Xiaoxi pouted with some grievance. "You're still talking." Do you think everyone has your talent and aptitude? What's more, Xiaoyin, your martial soul is the world's #1 god binding chains. My martial soul is only the second-grade firefox. Alright, what's your cultivation now? Feng Jixing said, Your Highness has reached the first layer of Heaven Realm at rank 57. Tang Xiaoxi opened her mouth and clenched her fists. I didn't expect Xiaoyin to leave me behind so much. I have to work hard too. But I have to eat my fill first. Otherwise, I won't have the energy to cultivate. Qin Yin and Feng Jixing couldn't help but smile. I just don't know how Mu is doing. I don't even know if he's dead or alive. Tang Xiaoxi suddenly said faintly as she ate. Her eyes were red. Feng Jixing was stunned and didn't say anything. Instead, Qin Yin said, Xiaoxi, if Lin Muyu is really that important to you, I'll go to Father Emperor and ask him to pardon Lin Muyu. He only killed a small official in a border city. Tang Xiaoxi looked at her excitedly. Really? Qin Yin nodded vigorously. Yes. At the side, Qin Lei, who was eating meat, suddenly raised his head and said, Your Highness, His Majesty once said that no one can be pardoned in front of the Empire's laws. He said these words on the day he ascended the throne. Slapping His Majesty's face like this isn't too good, right? Qin Yin glared at him. Brother Qin Lei really doesn't know how to behave. Tang Xiaoxi nodded. Yes. Qin Lei was the son of Prince Jining, the son of a prince. In fact, he was Qin Yin's cousin. He smiled honestly and said, Then let's give it a try. Maybe His Majesty will really pardon that brat. Feng Jixing watched from the side, wanting to say something but hesitating. After the meal, Qin Yin was admiring the flowers in the back garden of the Duke's mansion. As the head of the Imperial Guards, Qin Lei personally carried his sword to protect her at the side. The only task that the Emperor had given him was to protect Her Highness' safety. Princess. Feng Jixing raised his saber and called out from afar. Tang Xiaoxi, who was on the wooden corridor, stopped in her tracks. She turned around and asked, General Feng, what's the matter? Feng Jixing coughed and said, Princess Shi, that. Is Lin Muyu really that important to you? Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. Her face blushed slightly as she said, He can be considered as my best friend, right? Is that so? Feng Jixing smiled. Then I, Feng Jixing, will say a few words here. After I'm done, these words will disappear with the wind. Princess, she can also pretend that you've never heard these words. How about it? Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. Huh? What? Feng Jixing pondered for a moment and said, A few days ago, a boy traveled a long distance from Silver Fir City. After nearly half a month, he went through many hardships from Seven Stars Forest to Dragon-Seeking Forest. After that, he entered Lanyan City. Due to my recommendation, he has already entered the Holy Temple to cultivate. He has changed his name to Lin Ji. Perhaps the Holy Temple will have the answer that Princess she wants. Ah! Tang Xiaoxi's delicate body trembled. The silver scarf around her neck flew with the wind and landed in the lotus pond. She slowly raised her head and looked at Feng Jixing with her beautiful eyes. Really? Yes. Feng Jixing nodded heavily and said, Don't worry, Princess. At any time, Feng Jixing will never lie. Princess, your scarf flew away. Inside the training room, Xianxia raised a long sword. He didn't know where this sword came from, but it was definitely not an ordinary one. Ice crystals flowed along the blade, indicating that it was at least a spirit weapon. It wasn't much inferior to Lin Muyu's burning prairie sword. Swords have no eyes. Be careful, Lord Linji. I won't be able to bear the consequences if you get hurt. Xianxia said indifferently. He had already begun to activate his martial spirit. It was a beast martial spirit that looked like a poisonous snake. At the same time, his blade began to glow with the luster of fighting aura. This was his greatest advantage over Lin Muyu. Fighting aura versus true qi was on a completely different level. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. He quickly summoned the walls of his gourd and buffed himself with the dragon scale wall, black tortoise shell and green rock armor. Although this was just a training, he knew that this was a battle of life and death for him. Xianxia didn't hide his killing intent the moment he drew his sword. There were only 2 people in the training room, so killing couldn't be easier. Thank you. Xianxia suddenly flipped his wrist, and his long sword struck out like a bolt of lightning. The first sword of the Sacred Temple's attack was indeed extraordinary. His sword aura was surging with Dou Qi, and it even let out a sharp sword cry in the air. Lin Muyu's swordplay was limited to the Imperial Wind Sword technique and the Lightning Strike Slash. The Lightning Strike Slash was a killing move, and the Imperial Wind Sword technique focused on speed and manipulation of the wind. At this moment she had completely forgotten her identity as a sparring partner. She moved with the falling star steps and the burning prairie sword's flames erupted. With a ding, she knocked away her opponent's blade, and with a swoosh swoosh swoosh, 3 consecutive slashes landed on Xianxia's chest. Good sword skills. Xianxia couldn't help but cheer. After all, he was a martial artist. Even if they were on different sides, he couldn't help but admire the opponent in front of him because of his obsession with cultivation. Ding, ding, ding. 3 consecutive sounds rang out. Lin Muyu's 3 sword attacks were quickly blocked. Xianxia's speed of defense was too fast. After the 3 sword attacks, he swept his sword horizontally. The blade of his sword was filled with fighting aura, and bang! It struck the black tortoise shell. At the same time, he released his martial spirit and brazenly spat out a mouthful of venom. Ah! Lin Muyu quickly retreated a few steps. He raised the walls of his gourd and used his qi to deflect the venom. However, he suddenly felt a chill behind him. Xianxia's footwork was extremely exquisite. Shua, shua. The long sword formed a triangle attack behind him. However, it was too late to turn around. The first layer of the black tortoise shell was directly smashed into pieces. Xianxia's fighting aura surged from his body. He laughed maniacally and rushed over. He lifted his battle knee and heavily struck the second layer of the dragon scale wall. His fighting aura shook Lin Muyu's blood and qi. Lin Muyu retreated a few steps. Xianxia raised his head and leaped into the air. His long sword transformed into dozens of swords. It was actually the myriad sword art. The penetrative power of his sword qi was too strong. Even the dragon scale wall couldn't block it. He quickly activated his martial spirit's skill, Poison Liquid. His qi condensed into the shape of a gourd flower. He spat out a mouthful of venom. Xianxia didn't know what was going on. Naturally, he didn't dare to use force. He hastily stopped using the myriad sword art. He somersaulted in the air and dodged the venom. However, he saw the venom spitting out on the ground. So venomous. He sneered. Same to you. Lin Muyu brandished his sword and attacked again. The 2 of them were entangled in a fight again. After fighting for nearly 50 rounds, both of them had more wounds on their bodies. The difference was that Xianxia's arms were pierced twice and blood was flowing out. On the other hand, Lin Muyu's chest was pierced twice. However, he only broke her skin and didn't bleed too much. Her blood was just enough to soak through her clothes. Therefore, it seemed like her injuries were serious. However, Xianxia's injuries were actually more serious. This was probably the effect of skin refining. Xianxia became more and more anxious. He knew that Lin Muyu was only a level 50 battle saint. However, he who was a first-level heavenly realm expert couldn't gain much of an advantage against Lin Muyu. Therefore, his anger surged an endless fighting aura. His fighting aura was endless, allowing him to recover a lot of his strength in a short period of time. This was why fighting aura was stronger than true energy. After fighting for another 10 rounds, Lin Muyu's face started to turn pale. His strength was starting to run out. A few more sword wounds appeared on his body. Puff, puff, puff. Xianxia's attacks became more and more urgent. His sword was like a venomous snake, trying to devour Lin Muyu's heart, neck and other vital parts. Xianxia's killing intent was completely exposed. You want to kill me? After the heavy demonic sound fist forced his opponent to retreat, blood was already flowing out from the corner of Lin Muyu's mouth. He raised his head and looked at his opponent, saying coldly, "Zhenfang, do you really want me dead?" Xianxia sneered. "It's not that the young master wants you dead, it's that you deserve to die. You little bastard, you're just a wanted criminal. Do you think you're qualified to cultivate in the Holy Palace? Go to hell." The long sword pierced through the air and launched another dozen or so piercing attacks. Lin Muyu desperately channeled his true energy to form the dragon scale wall, but it instantly shattered again. After all, the difference in strength was too great. Even he himself felt a little weak. Bang! Lin Muyu's back slammed into the wall. The wall was at least 1 meter thick, but the strong impact still shattered the surface of the wall. Lin Muyu's body also penetrated 20 centimeters into the wall. Hua! Xianxia abandoned his sword and opened his iron claw-like left hand to grab Lin Muyu's neck. He laughed and said, "How is it? Isn't your gourd the best defense in the Holy Palace? Why isn't it magical now? Has your body been tempered? Haha, that old thing Lei Hong actually taught a trash like you the tempered skin technique, but not us. He's too biased." As he spoke, he placed the tip of his sword on Lin Muyu's chest and slowly pushed it in. When the tip of the sword pierced into his flesh, he looked at his opponent's pained expression and couldn't help but laugh. "How is it? Why isn't your tempered skin working? Linji, you don't want to die like this, right? A trash like you can only die like this. Resist. Resist." Suddenly, an angry roar came from his heart. Lin Muyu's body trembled, and a mysterious and vast energy surged into his arms. It was a little familiar. Yes, it was the 7 planets' profound energy. At this time, this life-saving energy actually surged again. Raising his left arm, he shook off Xianxia's sword. Traces of black energy surged from Lin Muyu's body, and a faint blood-red light shone in his eyes. He didn't know where he got the energy from, but he suddenly turned around and pressed Xianxia against the shattered wall. He clenched his right hand into a fist and growled, "Who are you calling trash?" His fist shone brightly, the first heaven of the 7 planets' profound energy, chaos of the common life. Bang! The iron fist landed heavily on Xianxia's abdomen. Lin Muyu used too much force and rushed out with Xianxia. The two of them directly smashed through the thick wall. But after using the 7 planets' profound energy, his body immediately fell into a state of extreme fatigue and he fell to the ground with Xianxia. "Moo." A clear and sweet voice sounded in his ears. He raised his head, only to see a pair of slender snow-white legs wrapped in a long dress. When he looked again, Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful face reflected in his eyes. "It's been a long time, Xiaoxi." Chapter 60. Moo. Without any explanation, Tang Xiaoxi pounced into Lin Muyu's embrace. It was originally a pleasure to have 2 soft mounds pressed against her chest, but it was also a wound there. Lin Muyu immediately groaned and her face started to turn pale. Are you all right?" Looking at the sword wound on Lin Muyu's chest, Tang Xiaoxi, the beautiful princess, was instantly enraged. She turned around and looked coldly at Xianxia. "Who is this instructor Jinxing?" Beside her, Chief Deacon Lei Hong said respectfully, reporting to Princess, "His name is Xianxia." Xianxia also recognized this beautiful girl as the legendary Duke of Songlan's only granddaughter. He hurriedly struggled to get up despite his injuries and knelt on the ground. "This lowly one greets Princess Xi." Hua! A string of flames encircled Princess Xi's snow-white fingers. She suddenly appeared in front of Xianxia in a flash, raised her 5 fingers and slapped Xianxia's face. Xianxia was sent flying from his original spot and fell to the ground. There was a burning 5-fingered mark on his face. Tang Xiaoxi's attack was enhanced by her martial soul, so he could be considered to have a good cultivation base since he didn't faint immediately. Lei Hong was instantly petrified. "Princess, why did you beat up Instructor Jinxing?" Tang Xiaoxi helped Lin Muyu up and said coldly, "Because he bullied my people." The other deacon at the side was Zhen Feng. Zhen Feng refuted, "Princess, it's obvious that Xianxia's injuries are more serious. As a sparring partner, Lin Ji actually injured an instructor. This has already violated the rules of the sacred sanctum. He should be expelled from the sacred sanctum immediately." Tang Xiaoxi turned around and said word by word, "Lin Ji belongs to me, Tang Xiaoxi. Young Duke Zhen Feng, I dare you to say that again." Zhen Feng stammered for a moment, but was actually unable to say anything else. Although Zheng Feng was the only son of Divine Marquis Zheng Yifan, Zheng Yifan did not have any military power during non-war times. On the other hand, Tang Xiaoxi's backer was her grandfather, Tang Lon, who held hundreds of thousands of military power in Seven Seas City. There was a world of difference in status and real power between the two. "Mu, are you okay?" Tang Xiaoxi put away the coldness on her face and revealed a smile that a young girl should have. She looked at Lin Muyu, who was leaning against her, and asked. Lin Muyu was overwhelmed by a myriad of emotions. After parting ways at Kathia City, He knew that Tang Xiaoxi wouldn't care about him at all due to the disparity in status between him and her. Unfortunately, he was wrong. Happiness had come too suddenly. It turned out that Tang Xiaoxi cared about his safety this much. So he put on a show. Xiaoxi, I went to the dragon-seeking forest to look for you 2 days ago, but I couldn't find you. Tang Xiaoxi burst into laughter. Silly Moo, the dragon-seeking forest is so big. How did you find me? Fortunately, I found you now. How is it? I'm still better than you, right? Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Princess, she is the best in the world in both literature and martial arts. Tang Xiaoxi was very happy to be coaxed. That's more like it. As she spoke, she turned around and pointed a finger at Ouyangqiu. Even though Lin Ji is only a sparring partner, you better remember that Lin Ji is a distinguished guest of our Duke of Seven Seas estate. No one is allowed to harm him, or it would be equivalent to going against Seven Seas City. Turning to look at Lei Hong, Tang Xiaoxi revealed a beautiful smile that refreshed the heart. Grandpa Lei Hong, why didn't you restrain your instructor Jin Xing? Look, the sparring partner was almost beaten to death. With such heavy injuries, he was clearly trying to kill someone. Lei Hong hurriedly cupped his fists. Princess, you are right. I will do my best to supervise this matter in the future. Zhen Fang gritted his teeth. Great Deacon, we have our own rules. There's no need to compromise for the sake of a mere Seven Seas city, right? Tang Xiaoxi's face turned cold. At this moment, a person walked out from the group of royal guards behind her. It was Feng Jixing. Feng Jixing held his saber and sneered. Young Duke, I know that Ouyangqiu is your swordsmanship teacher. If he wants to kill Lin Ji, you can't get away with it, right? Zhen Fang was stunned. General Feng, why are you here? It's not just me. Feng Jixing stepped aside. Chu Huayin, who had not appeared for a long time, had a lazy smile on his face. He held a heavy sword and smiled. Young Duke, we are all friends of Lin Ji. If he has offended you in any way, please forgive him. Just treat it as giving us face. Chu Huayin. Zheng Fang gritted his teeth and said, Princess, she is so ostentatious. She actually called the commander of the Imperial Guards and Chu Huayin of the Imperial Guards over. One is a white-robed Imperial Guard, and the other is a Imperial Guard. This is clearly making me speechless, right? However, don't forget that the laws of the Empire are strict. Those who break the law will never have a good ending. You guys better behave yourselves. There's no need for you to worry. Tang Xiaoxi said indifferently. I will naturally resolve my friend's matter. However, young Duke, you should know your limits in the future. No matter what happens, as long as something happens to Lin Ji, Tang Xiaoxi will not let it go. Zhen Fang flicked his sleeves and left. Ouyangqiu stood up resentfully, wiped the blood from his mouth and followed. Seeing them leave, Chu Huayin walked forward and patted Lin Muyu's shoulder. He laughed and said, You're really not bad. You were actually able to surpass your realm and defeat a heavenly state expert like Ouyangqiu. Lin Muyu couldn't say anything. He was almost killed. How could he talk about such an embarrassing thing? He could only say, Sigh, I was just lucky. Otherwise, I would have been beaten up by him. Lei Hong walked forward. How are your injuries? Lin Muyu shook his head. I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, Grandpa Lei Hong. Lei Hong nodded. Then he said to the group of instructors and sparring partners, All right, it's fine now. You guys can carry on with your own cultivation. Don't mess up. The crowd dispersed. However, one thing was certain. Everyone saw that Gold Star instructor Ouyangqiu was defeated by Lin Muyu. As the #1 swordsman of the Holy Temple, Ouyangqiu was definitely going to be humiliated. Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu were reunited after a long time. There were many things that they wanted to say, but they didn't know what to say when they actually met. The courageous and decisive princess, she stood at the side, blushing. She looked at Lin Muyu speechlessly. Lin Muyu looked at her adorable expression and couldn't help but laugh. Xiaoxi, your face is as red as the sunset. Tang Xiaoxi became even more embarrassed. She waved her fist and punched him. You're still talking? I thought you were dead. How could that be? I'm so lucky. Feng Jixing couldn't be bothered to listen to the two of them flirt with each other. He cupped his fists and said, The matter has been resolved. Princess, I should return to Zetian Palace Hall. His Highness has already gone back. I can't stay outside for too long. Thank you, Brother Feng. Lin Muyu said. Chu Huayin also said his goodbyes. Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi sent them out of the divine hall. Tang Xiaoxi sent back a group of cavalry guards. She only brought a few people with her because she wanted to accompany Lin Muyu to have a good look around the capital. At night they settled at the famous restaurant in the capital, Tingyu Restaurant. There were only the two of them. They ordered some rice wine and a table full of sumptuous dishes. This meal was treated by Tang Xiaoxi. Princess, she didn't care about money at all. Lin Muyu had been starving in the dragon-seeking forest for a few days, so naturally he would eat like a tornado. Tang Xiaoxi, on the other hand, had already eaten her fill at noon. She smiled as she watched him gobble down the food. Finally, when her stomach was almost full, Lin Muyu burped in satisfaction. She smiled and said, "The food that others treat is really fragrant." Tang Xiaoxi covered her mouth and smiled. "Idiot. All right. I have good news for you. I received a letter from Yu Shu at noon. Tomorrow at the latest, Chu will return to Lanyan City." "Oh, Teacher Chu is back?" Tang Xiaoxi nodded and said, "When I see him, I will naturally let him go to the divine hall to see you. He will also teach you some martial arts. Mu, although your advancement speed is very fast, you are still not strong enough. The divine hall is a place where people will swallow you whole. Without enough strength, you can only be trampled on." Lin Muyu felt the same way. I have already experienced it." Tang Xiaoxi tilted her head and looked at her with a smile. "Mu, can I go to the divine hall to see you often?" "Sure, but don't make such a big commotion again." Lin Muyu scratched her head and said helplessly, "Now I am afraid I am already a famous person in the divine hall." Tang Xiaoxi covered her mouth and laughed. "Big idiot, the more famous you are, the more those people will not dare to touch you. If you are just a nameless brat humph with Zhenfang's nature, I am afraid he would have killed you quietly." "That's true." Lin Muyu looked at her own fist. After circulating her energy, her skin was covered with energy and smiled. "It is still the fist that is hard, otherwise it is useless to say anything." In the evening, after watching the lanterns for a while, she sent Tang Xiaoxi back to the residence. It was only until she saw these beauties enter the duke's residence that Lin Muyu returned to the divine hall and continued to cultivate. Late at night, under the bright moon, she continued to refine her skin. But the effect of the night was not very good. It seemed that the refining of the skin had reached its limit and the skin could not absorb any more spiritual energy. If she continued to forcefully cultivate, it would only be harmful. Far away, under the moonlight, there were two old men standing. One was Lei Hong and the other was Guyang. The two of them were discussing. While they were chatting, the sound of wind suddenly swept past. Guyang asked, "What happened?" Lei Hong stroked his beard and smiled. Chu, if you are here, then come out. Why do you need to be so sneaky?" In the small forest, Chu slowly walked out and laughed. "Lei Hong, you old man is really sharp. How is it? My student's talent is not bad, right?" "His talent is not bad, but it has not improved." Lei Hong's eyes shone brightly. "It has not improved? What happened?" Chu asked. "When he entered the divine hall, he was a battle saint, and now he is still a battle saint. What has increased is his combat experience, but his strength has not improved. His bone structure has already restricted his growth, just like many second-rate cultivators who have been stuck at a certain level for their entire lives." Lei Hong's expression was a little regretful. Chu's expression turned cold, then he smiled and said, "Don't worry, I am prepared." Lei Hong's eyes were filled with a trace of astonishment. With a leap, Chu landed not far away from Lin Muyu. He chuckled and said, "Lin Muyu, long time no see. Look what I have brought for you." Swoosh. An item wrapped in black cloth flew through the air. Lin Muyu looked at Chu in surprise and smiled. "Chu, you are here? Let's look at the gift first." Chu smiled faintly. Lin Muyu lowered her head and opened the cloth, only to find that there was a half-rotten book inside. Even the words on the book were not clear. The bamboo slips had rotted into a pile. It was obvious that Chu had rebound the book. The first part of the book had a few clear words. "Forging dragon bones." Forging dragon bones? He was at a loss. Chu smiled faintly and said, "Strictly speaking, it is the Forging Dragon Bones remnant scroll. Currently I can only find so much of it. You should make do with it." Chapter 61. Forging Dragon Bones. Lin Muyu held the remnant scroll and flipped to the first page. The first sentence of the mental cultivation method was engraved on it. Forging the bones and cleansing the marrow, like a dragon shedding its scales, opening the 4 gates, reshaping the bloodline. He was at a loss. Grandpa Chu Chu, what is this forging dragon bones remnant scroll used for? Chu Chu twirled his beard and smiled. Just by looking at the name you will understand. It is a mental cultivation method for forging the bones and cleansing the marrow. However, this mental cultivation method is similar to that of a dragon, so it is called the Forging Dragon Bones Remnant Scroll. As he said this, Chu Chu plucked a leaf from the iron tree beside him. With a xiao sound, the leaf flew 100 meters backwards and directly into a green rock. He laughed loudly. I am teaching this kid a martial art. Do you 2 old fellows still want to eavesdrop? Hurry up and go drink, wait for me. Lei Hong laughed heartily. Deacon Guyong, let us go drink first. Guyong was delighted. Okay. After the 2 of them walked far away, Chu Chu continued, Kid, consider yourself lucky. I found this Forging Dragon Bones remnant scroll in an unknown ancient city. It records the important mental cultivation method for forging the bones and cleansing the marrow. As he said this, he looked at the confused teenager and couldn't help but laugh. Seems like you still don't understand. How about this? I will simply explain to you why your cultivation has not improved recently and you are still a level 50 battle saint. It is actually very simple. Your strength has reached the limit of your current level. In other words, your bloodline is unable to support a stronger cultivation level. Everyone in the Empire practices martial arts, but not everyone's cultivation level is equal. This is related to the bloodline. The imperial family of the Empire, the Qin family's bloodline, is a superior bloodline, the legendary True Dragon's bloodline. That is why the Qin family's cultivation is very easy, but you, he said with some regret. To be honest, you are a good material for practicing martial arts, but you are not a person with a superior bloodline. Your bloodline is at most average. Lin Muyu was a little speechless. She thought to herself, my Lin family's bloodline is actually so trashy. This is really unexpected. Chu Chu continued. The greatest use of this dragon forging bone remnant scroll is to temper your bones. In the world of cultivation, honing your bones is incomparably important. But for most people, honing only strengthens the bones and does not affect the essence of the marrow. This dragon forging bone remnant scroll is only a legendary martial arts manual. It is said that it can reshape one's bones and blood vessels. When that time comes, perhaps you will have a bloodline as strong as the Dragon Clan, and there will no longer be any cultivation that you cannot endure. Ah, is that so? Lin Muyu was very excited as she listened. She held the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll in her hands, but she suddenly looked up at Chu Chu and said, Grandpa Chu Chu, since this Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll is so precious, I can't accept it. You should keep it for yourself and cultivate. Looking at this rather simple and honest kid, Chu Chu couldn't help but laugh loudly. Silly kid, do I Chu Chu look like that kind of selfless person? If I could really cultivate it, I'm afraid I wouldn't be giving it to you. But a light flashed in Chu Chu's eyes as he said, Forging Dragon Bone, as the name implies, is the Dragon Clan's bone forging technique. The pain of forging the bones and cleansing the marrow is not something an ordinary person can endure. Your grandpa Chu Chu is so old, do you think my body can still endure this kind of pain? I'll tell you the truth, I've tried cultivating this remnant scroll before, but I almost fainted from the pain. That's why I'm giving it to you. Your mind should be able to handle this kind of pain. Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a bit apprehensive when she recalled the pain of refining her skin. But thinking that this forging dragon bone secret technique could bring her even greater strength, and that she really needed strength, she nodded and said, Thank you Grandpa Chu Chu, I will definitely cultivate diligently and not let you down. Chu Chu smiled. Actually, I didn't put too much hope on you, I just didn't want to see Princess She cry for you again. Xiao, she is a kind girl, don't let her down. Lin Muyu was stunned for a moment, then nodded, Then cultivate according to the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll. With your comprehension it shouldn't be difficult. Yes. Chu Chu leapt out of the garden, most likely to go drink with Lei Hong, Guyong and the other old fellows. Lin Muyu held the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll, as if she had obtained a treasure. Her cultivation had already reached the limit, and refining her skin was no longer of any use. so she immediately began to cultivate the forging dragon bone. The remnant scroll was divided into 3 parts. The first part was marrow cleansing, meaning to thoroughly cleanse the bone marrow. The second part was assimilation, meaning to find a piece of true dragon bone and assimilate it with one's own bone characteristics. The third part was rebirth. After assimilating the true dragon bone, one would begin to reconstruct one's bloodline. The most difficult part was assimilation because one had to find a piece of true dragon bone, but where would one go to find one? First, cultivate marrow cleansing. The so-called marrow cleansing referred to cultivating according to the method recorded in the Heart Sutra, transforming true qi into true inner force. True inner force would circulate throughout the entire body's bones once, but marrow cleansing required 72 cycles of circulation. The remnant scroll stated that it required 5 to 7 marrow cleansing to complete marrow cleansing, changing the entire body's bone marrow once. This was a long process. Sitting cross-legged in the grass, he slowly closed his eyes. The first step was to transform his true qi into true inner force. This was also the first chapter of the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll. It was called Refining Qi into Primary Essence. The true inner force had a stronger penetrating power, and its purity was also far superior to true qi. Just this step alone almost took Lin Muyu's life. He cultivated from night till dawn, and finally the true qi in his body began to change subtly, becoming hot and cold. He gently opened his palm and a fiery red true qi rose up. True inner force had been refined. Continuing, he began to use true inner force to circulate throughout the entire body's bones. He could only circulate it once every 20 minutes, and what followed was a tearing pain as if every inch of his bones was being roasted by fire. In the blink of an eye, his entire body was covered in sweat. No wonder Chu Chu couldn't withstand this kind of pain. But Lin Muyu still bitterly endured and forcefully completed the first cycle. In the morning, a servant brought breakfast and placed it beside him. The servant respectfully said, "Sir Lin Ji, Deacon Guyang has ordered me to bring you breakfast. Please enjoy." He also said that you don't have to go to the training hall for the next few days and just focus on your cultivation. Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel grateful. This was definitely something Chu Chu had done for him. Otherwise, with the style of the temple, how could they let a gold star sparring master like him be idle? In the blink of an eye, a day had passed and he had also completed 1 cycle of the 72 cycles. As his cultivation progressed, the process became faster and faster. Luckily, there was someone to deliver his 3 meals, so he was completely immersed in his cultivation. Even the pain from the marrow cleansing seemed to have disappeared. On the 3rd day, he had completed a total of 6 cycles of the 72 cycles of cultivation, and all the bones in his body seemed to have been reborn. He slowly opened his eyes, and drops of dew dripped down from the treetops onto his shoulders. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Even the clarity of his vision seemed to have improved a lot, and his ears and eyes became sharper. Even the footsteps of the servants in the distance couldn't escape his ears. This bone forging and marrow cleansing was indeed wonderful. He stood up. It only took him 3 days to complete the first scroll of the Dragon Forging Remnant Scroll. Next was the second stage, assimilation. However, the bone of a true dragon was harder to find. In the morning, he found out in the temple that Chu Chu had left Lanyan City to travel again. Lei Hong Guyang and the others all expressed that they didn't know where to find the bone of a true dragon. Bones of a pseudo-dragon could be found, and the umbrella dragon's bones could be found in the pharmacy. However, it was obvious that he couldn't use the pseudo-dragon's bones to assimilate. Otherwise, the quality of his cultivation would be completely different. In the afternoon, a servant walked over and said, "Sir Lin Ji, there's someone outside asking to see you. It's Princess Shi from the Duke of Seven Seas' residence." "Oh, I'll be right there." He hurriedly put on his boots and hurried out. Outside the temple, Tang Xiaoxi stood alone under the bright sunlight. Her hair flowed behind her and she wore a fiery red dress. She looked at him with a smile and said, "Mu, long time no see. Why are you free today, Xiaoxi?" He asked with a smile. "I'm free every day. I'm going to Zetian Hall today, so I came to see you on the way." She smiled sweetly. Lin Mu muttered, "Zetian Hall? It seems that there's no need to pass through the temple from the Duke's residence to Zetian Hall." He regretted it as soon as he said it. He wanted to slap his thigh and scold himself. You finally understand why you're single. Tang Xiaoxi blushed at his words. She glared at him and said, anyway, I'm going there on the way. You don't have to care about me. Let's go to Tingyu restaurant for lunch. I've made a reservation. Okay, but it's so expensive there. One meal costs 70 Jinin coins. Don't worry, I'll pay. Tang Xiaoxi patted her plump chest and didn't reply. Okay, but before I go there, I want to go to the biggest medicine shop in the Imperial City. Okay. The two of them arrived at the medicine shop. Many people in the medicine shop recognized Tang Xiaoxi. They all respectfully greeted her, Princess she is well. After asking a few rooms, Lin Muyu couldn't find what she was looking for. Lin Muyu looked unhappy. Silly Mu, what kind of medicinal herb are you looking for? Tang Xiaoxi was a little surprised. A kind of bone, Lin Muyu said. Oh, what kind of bone? It's... Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed and said, Xiaoxi, how long has it been since a true dragon appeared on this continent? A true dragon. Tang Xiaoxi blinked and said with a smile, about 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. The legend of a true dragon has been around for a long time. Seems like no one has seen a true dragon in the past few thousand years. If that's the case, then it's even harder. He was full of disappointment. What are you looking for? A piece of the bone of a true dragon. Ah. Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful eyes widened, but she suddenly seemed to think of something. She stuck out her tongue and said with a smile, okay, this kind of thing is really hard to find. How about this, I'll help you think of a way. Don't be anxious. Okay. Tang Xiaoxi knew that Lin Muyu was a genius in the field of medicine refinement. She was probably looking for the bone of a true dragon to refine medicine, so she didn't ask much. She didn't know that Lin Muyu wanted the bone of a true dragon to cultivate the dragon bone forging technique. Chapter 62. In the back garden of Zetian Palace, many maids were flying kites. Qin Yin was dressed in a purple cloak with the golden emblem of the Xianxia Empire pinned on her chest. She held a dark green zither in her arms as she looked up at the kite in the sky. Your Highness Ing. A maid greeted her respectfully from the side. Qin Yin smiled gently. It's fine now. You may leave. Yes. Qin Yin turned around and saw Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful eyes looking at her as if she was looking at an extremely delicious delicacy, and she couldn't help but burst into laughter. Xiaoxi, why are you looking at me like that? I'm not here to eat. Tang Xiaoxi rubbed her hands together and smiled shyly. Xiao Yin, I have a favor to ask of you. Oh? Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. When did our Xiaoxi become so polite? Where did your courage go when you asked for 5 pieces of golden silkwood from the palace last time? Tang Xiaoxi's face turned red. I might have gone a little overboard this time. Oh, say it. Qin Yin put down her harp and generously opened her arms to hug Tang Xiaoxi's shoulders. She smiled. I don't have anything I want anyway. If you say it, I will naturally do my best to help you. Xiao Yin, do you still remember what Her Majesty the Empress gave you when you were 7 years old? Ah. Qin Yin was stunned. Mother gave me the last gift. Yes, yes. Qin Yin lowered her head and slowly unbuttoned her clothes. The golden thread extended all the way to the 2 tender pieces of flesh. There was a piece of bone about the size of a thumb hanging at the end. It was a young dragon's metatarsal, but it was a genuine 5-clawed dragon. It was passed down from generation to generation in her mother's family. This is the last thing my mother left for me. Qin Yin's eyes reddened. Her mother had already passed away when she was still young, and there weren't many things left for her. Seeing Qin Yin's eyes turning red, Tang Xiaoxi panicked. Xiaoyin, don't cry. I don't want it anymore. Qin Yin pursed her red lips and said, although this true dragon bone is precious, but if Xiaoxi really needs it, I'm willing to give it to you. After all, it's just a gift to me. Really? Tang Xiaoxi blinked her beautiful eyes, but she felt that she was going a little overboard, so she shook her head and said, forget it, I don't want it anymore. Qin Yin smiled and lifted her long hair. She took the pendant from her neck and said, all right, I'll give it to you. You are my best sister, a sister for life. Don't I still have the zither that mother left me? Moreover, as long as Xiaoxi is happy, the spirit of my mother in heaven will also be gratified, right? Tang Xiaoxi held the dragon bone that was still warm from Qin Yin's body, feeling apologetic and grateful. She pouted and said, Xiao, I will treat you well for life and I will never leave you. Yes, me too. In the afternoon, a white horse stopped in front of the temple. Tang Xiaoxi entered the temple with the true dragon bone that Qin Yin had given her. She found Lin Muyu who was sparring with her. The Silver Star instructor immediately left respectfully. He knew that Tang Xiaoxi had something to discuss with Lin Muyu, so he didn't dare to be a third wheel. Princess, she was the second most beautiful woman in the imperial capital, and the beloved daughter of Tang Lan of the Seven Seas city. She was temperamental and he couldn't afford to offend her. This is really the true dragon bone? Lin Muyu held the pendant in her hands, finding it hard to believe. This metatarsal looked simple and ordinary and didn't look like a dragon bone. Tang Xiaoxi's eyes immediately turned red and she felt extremely wronged. In order to obtain this true dragon bone, I'm willing to give up everything. You heartless fellow, you actually doubt that this isn't the true dragon bone. Lin Muyu hurriedly smiled apologetically. Thank you, Xiaoxi. Thank you so much. Where did you get this true dragon bone? Must be very expensive. I heard from Grandpa Lei Hong of the temple that the true dragon on the continent has long been extinct, and the true dragon bone has also disappeared with the passage of time. It's impossible to find a complete true dragon bone. You don't need to ask where I got it. Tang Xiaoxi blinked and said, Mu, what do you want this true dragon bone for? To refine medicine? Heh. Lin Muyu didn't want the remnant scroll of the forging dragon bone to spread, so she smiled and said, It's a secret, I'll tell you in the future. Tang Xiaoxi was instantly unhappy and she lightly pouted. So petty. If you don't want to tell me, then forget it. I'm going back to cultivate. When I'm free, I'll visit you at the Duke's mansion. Tang Xiaoxi was a little excited. When I'm free. Bastard. After sending off Princess Xi, a few sparring partners and instructors nearby all looked at her with ambiguous and jealous gazes. It was no wonder that the naturally beautiful Tang Xiaoxi, a rare peerless beauty, would actually show such favor to a mere temple employee like Lin Muyu. How could they not be envious and jealous? These instructors and sparring partners felt that the heavens were too unfair, and all the favor had landed on this brat, Lin Ji. Holding the dragon bone in his hand, Lin Muyu happily thought about when to refine it. At this moment, Reihum entered the training hall and went straight to the training room where Lin Muyu was. With a calm expression, he smiled and said, Lin Ji, I'm here to see you. How's your cultivation going? Thank you for your concern, Grandpa Reihum. Everything is normal. He answered truthfully. Oh. Reihum lowered his voice and smiled. Have you comprehended the remnant scroll of the forging dragon bone? I've comprehended less than half. Is that so? Reihum nodded and muttered to himself. He took out a black key and gave it to him. Here, this is for you. Oh, what's this? A secret room in the backyard. Many Gold Star instructors have their own private secret training rooms where they won't be disturbed. You also need a quiet environment to cultivate the remnant scroll of the forging dragon bone, so this secret room is temporarily for you to use. Use it well and don't waste the temple's resources. Lin Muyu was extremely grateful. Thank you, Grandpa Reihum. You're welcome. If it wasn't for that old fellow Choo-Choo's face, I wouldn't have made an exception to let sparring partners have their own private secret rooms. The afternoon training session was naturally cancelled. When Lin Muyu arrived at the secret room in the backyard, he was shocked. Although it was called a secret room, it was actually a courtyard. It was more luxurious than the 3 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. The secret room was fully equipped with daily necessities, and every secret room was equipped with a servant to take care of the practitioner's daily necessities. After entering the secret room, he immediately locked the stone door. He sat cross-legged on the stone bed. This kind of design was reasonable. Many experts who cultivated in the law of fire could not cultivate on a normal bed, or else they would burn the bed. Lin Muyu's cultivation direction was uncertain. The lightning strike was based on the law of lightning, while the green rock armor was based on the law of rock. But if the qi was strong enough, it could also produce flames, so it was better to sit on the stone bed. With a gentle push, the true dragon bone immediately floated in front of his chest. He gently untied the golden thread that was tied to the dragon bone and put it in his arms. He then began to use his qi to feel the power in the dragon bone. Just as Lin Muyu was focusing all her attention on the dragon bone, she suddenly felt a splitting pain in her head. Following that, she heard the roar of a divine dragon and a vast dragon aura surrounding her body. She felt as if her entire body was being burned by the dragon's flames, and the heart-wrenching pain was unbearable. Lin Muyu let out a cry of pain, but she forced herself to stay focused and continued to pry into the secrets of the dragon bone. Although his eyes were closed, his eye could feel the scene. In the chaos, the flames were burning. He saw a young golden dragon struggling in the endless purgatory magma, letting out roars. This was probably the scene when the young dragon died. The young dragon's roar had already turned into a mournful cry, and then its body slowly turned into a pool of blood in the magma. Only a part of the dragon's claw was left clinging to the rock. As time passed, the dragon's claw slowly weathered and finally, only a metatarsal bone was left. It was the metatarsal bone in front of him. Lin Muyu let out a long sigh. He finally understood the origin of this metatarsal bone, and also understood the memory and power contained in this dragon bone. This young dragon had stored almost all of its dragon power in this metatarsal bone. If he really refined this metatarsal bone, it would be equivalent to refining the power of a young five-clawed dragon. He took a deep breath and began to use his qi to peel off the structure of the dragon bone, releasing the dragon power within. However, his qi was like water in a stream, constantly attacking the rock that was the dragon bone, but he could not break it. After more than an hour, there was still no progress. Did he really have to use the crafting cauldron? He slowly shook his head and raised his palm. Flames quickly enveloped his body and the dragon bone. The huge cauldron had already been opened. Something that could not be done with qi, the crafting cauldron should be able to do. Light the fire. With his order, the crafting cauldron let out a low whistle, and raging flames lingered around the dragon bone. The extremely penetrating flames only burned for less than 10 minutes, and the dragon bone began to peel off. With a dragon's roar, strands of golden dragon power slowly lingered around Lin Muyu's body, and then continuously seeped into her body. Ah! When the dragon power entered her skin, flesh and blood, Lin Muyu felt an extremely intense burning pain, but that was not the main point. When the dragon power touched her bones and began to temper and fuse with them, the piercing pain was completely unbearable for Lin Muyu. Her body was instantly covered in sweat, and her clothes and pants were immediately soaked. However, the pain was far more than that. As the dragon power continued to temper and fuse with her bones, the pain became more and more intense. Finally, Lin Muyu's consciousness began to blur and she fell on her back. "Big brother, stop." A voice came into his ear. It was the elf female official Lulu. She was flying in the air, shouting at the top of her lungs. Lin Muyu suddenly woke up and found that his body was covered in flames. He hurriedly withdrew his qi and the crafting cauldron, and rolled on the ground a few times to put out the flames on his body. He stood there in a sorry state. If it was not for Lulu waking him up and letting the crafting cauldron continue, he was afraid that his body would have been destroyed. Pain could be stimulating, but it could also make people faint and fall asleep. This was too dangerous. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.